My parents always seemed to favor my younger sister, Sarah, over me, and it was a dynamic that shaped much of my upbringing. At 28, I found myself reflecting on our family's complicated history of favoritism. Sarah, now 25, was the apple of my parents' eyes, especially my father's. This bias began in our childhood and only intensified as we grew older. I can still vividly recall how, when I was just 5 and Sarah was 2, they threw her an extravagant birthday party. It was a grand affair, complete with professional face painters, a bouncy castle, and even a petting zoo. In stark contrast, my own birthday that year was celebrated with a simple store-bought cake and a modest family lunch. This early experience set the tone for the years that followed. As we matured, the differences in treatment became increasingly apparent. Sarah always received the latest toys, the trendiest clothes, and the lion's share of attention. I remember saving up my allowance for months to buy a new bike when I turned 10. When Sarah saw it, she threw a tantrum, and instead of teaching her the value of patience and saving, my parents rushed out to buy her an even nicer bike than mine. The bias extended into our education as well. My parents attended all of Sarah's school events, while they often missed mine. I recall in 4th grade, I had the lead role in the school play. I practiced tirelessly for weeks, filled with excitement. On the night of the performance, my parents arrived an hour late, missing my pivotal scene entirely. Instead, they spent that time comforting Sarah, who had feigned a stomachache but was perfectly fine afterward. They simply lost track of time while playing with her. Academically, nothing I did ever seemed to garner their approval. I joined the math club, maintained straight A's in middle school, and even won first place in a regional science fair. Yet, when Sarah received a B+ in one of her weaker subjects, my parents celebrated her with a special dinner and a new phone to encourage her to keep improving. High school was particularly challenging for me. Eager for their approval, I immersed myself in every activity I could find. I maintained a 4.0 GPA, served as the editor of the school newspaper, and captained the debate team. Meanwhile, Sarah coasted through school, barely scraping by with a C average and spending most of her time socializing with friends. When I was selected as one of 2 junior-year students from our university to participate in a prestigious summer program at Yale, I felt a surge of pride. I shared the news with my father during dinner, but his response was less than enthusiastic. He grumbled and quickly shifted the conversation to Sarah's upcoming dance recital. My mother offered a brief, "That's nice," but moved on just as quickly. The night I was set to leave for Yale coincided with Sarah's concert, and my parents couldn't take me to the airport because they wanted to see her perform. I had to ask a friend's parents for a ride. The college admission process was another painful chapter. I spent months perfecting my essays, engaging in extracurricular activities, and preparing for the SAT. I received acceptance letters from several prestigious universities, along with a generous scholarship to my top choice. When I shared this news with my parents at dinner, their reaction was lukewarm at best. "That's good, but don't let it go to your head," my father warned. My mother added, "Just remember us when you're off becoming a big shot." In stark contrast, they were incredibly supportive when Sarah barely graduated from high school and chose not to pursue college. They praised her for being true to herself and defying societal expectations. They even bought her a car as a graduation gift, something they had never done for me. This ongoing favoritism took a toll on my mental health. Throughout my teenage years and into my early 20s, I struggled with anxiety and depression. It wasn't until I started therapy in college that I began to understand that my parents' behavior was not my fault. It took years of hard work to rebuild my self-esteem and learn to validate myself without seeking my parents' approval. Despite the lack of support from my immediate family, I managed to carve out a respectable life for myself. By the time I graduated from college with honors, I had secured a good job in finance and even purchased my own home by the age of 27. However, my parents remained indifferent to my accomplishments. This brings us to the current situation. Recently, my grandfather passed away, leaving behind a substantial estate. He was a self-made entrepreneur who had built his success from the ground up. In his will, he divided his assets equally among his grandchildren, which included Sarah, our cousins, and me. My share amounted to a significant $500,000, a windfall that could help me invest in my future, pay off student loans, and perhaps even start my own business. I was thrilled at the opportunities this unexpected inheritance could. The situation escalated dramatically when I turned 25. My father, as the executor of my grandfather's will, decided to take matters into his own hands. He claimed that he would interpret my grandfather's intentions and give my entire inheritance to my sister, Sarah, along with her own share. He insisted that Grandpa would have wanted this, given our family's unique circumstances. I was devastated. Not only was this clearly illegal, but it also served as a painful reminder of how little my parents thought of me. I tried to reason with them, pointing out that Grandpa had always treated all of his grandchildren equally and was well aware of our family dynamics. My mother accused me of speaking ill of the deceased, claiming that Grandpa would have wanted anything but what my father was proposing. I remembered how Grandpa had always encouraged my academic and career aspirations, but my parents dismissed those memories as mere misinterpretations. They insisted that Grandpa had expressed concerns about Sarah's future and wanted to ensure she was taken care of. When I asked why he hadn't simply written the will that way, they fell silent. Sarah, for her part, felt embarrassed by the situation but didn't criticize our parents. When I tried to talk to her privately, she shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best." It was clear she wasn't going to be much help. Feeling misled and hurt, I sought advice from my paternal grandmother, Grandpa's widow. When she learned what was happening, she was outraged. She told me that my parents had no right to alter the will and that this was not what Grandpa had intended. Grandma sent me some documents that clarified the situation. Years ago, my parents had allegedly pressured Grandpa to leave everything to Sarah in his will. Grandpa had fiercely resisted, stating that all of his grandchildren should be treated equally. He even included a provision in his will that anyone who challenged the equitable distribution would lose their share. Armed with this knowledge, I confronted my parents. Their astonishment at Grandma's revelation of their previous attempt to influence the will was palpable. My father tried to explain it away by saying they were simply concerned for Sarah's future, but I could see the guilt etched on their faces. Grandma acted swiftly. She contacted the other executors and lawyers named in the will, as well as my father's siblings, who were equally outraged by his proposal. Together, they put an end to my father's scheme and ensured that the will was executed as intended. Despite their displeasure with me, my parents had no choice but to back down. They accused me of turning the family against them and insisted that I should have handled the matter internally rather than involving others. My mother lamented how I had divided the family and deceived them. When my father threatened to cut me out of their will entirely, I told him I never expected anything from them. If I accepted their request to give Sarah my share, they threatened to sever all communication with me. My father even suggested that if I inherited their house, I would not be welcome there. In a particularly low blow, my mother claimed that my acceptance of the money showed I never truly loved them and was merely looking to profit from Grandpa's death. This issue has created a rift in the extended family. Some of my cousins have been supportive, recognizing the long-standing favoritism and appreciating my efforts to stand up for myself. Others believe I should have yielded to maintain peace, arguing that family harmony is more important than financial matters. While my father's siblings are clearly on my side, this has strained their relationships with my parents. Sarah is caught in the middle. She confided in me that while she feels terrible about the situation and didn't ask for it, she isn't ready to confront our parents. She has been conditioned her entire life to rely on them and seek their approval, so I don't entirely blame her. Still, a part of me wishes she could support me just once. This entire ordeal has dredged up a lot of past pain and resentment. I find myself recalling all the times I was overlooked or disregarded in favor of Sarah, the birthday parties I missed, the school events my parents skipped, and the achievements that went unnoticed. This one incident feels like it could finally bring closure to a lifetime of injustice. Despite the family turmoil, I am determined to claim my inheritance as Grandpa intended. My parents rarely speak to me now, and family gatherings have become awkward. I missed our monthly family dinner last week for the first time in ages because I couldn't bear the icy stares and accusatory glares. Yet, amidst the stress, a small part of me feels empowered. For the first time, I am confronting my parents' mistreatment. I am asserting my worth and refusing to be dismissed. It's both terrifying and liberating. Although I believe I am in the right, the family conflict is exhausting. I've started experiencing anxiety episodes again, something I hadn't dealt with since college. To cope with the stress, I'm considering returning to therapy. Should I have simply refused to meet my parents' expectations? My grandmother, along with my father's brothers and their legal team, managed to resolve the issues outside of court. I received my full inheritance, and the will was executed exactly as my grandfather intended. My father was dismissed from his role as executor due to his attempts to manipulate the will. This was a challenging process that unfolded over several weeks, filled with threats of litigation, stressful meetings, and heated phone calls. However, the law was clear, and my parents ultimately had to back down. The rift in our family, which is still ongoing, is significant. Initially, my parents remained steadfast in their accusations, labeling me as greedy and uncaring toward my sister, Sarah. They even tried to rally other family members against me, spreading false claims that I had pressured Grandpa into giving me money. Fortunately, most of the family saw through their deception. About a month after the will was accepted, there was a particularly distressing incident at a family gathering. My parents showed up uninvited, despite my aunt hosting the event. My father began shouting about how I had stolen from Sarah and corrupted Grandma against her. My mother threw an old photo album at my feet, claiming I had ruined all those cherished memories. It was a chaotic and uncomfortable scene, requiring several family members to intervene and persuade my parents to leave. Throughout this ordeal, my grandmother proved to be my strongest ally. She shared stories about how my grandfather had always been proud of my achievements and wanted to ensure that all his grandchildren had equal opportunities. She even mentioned that Grandpa kept a scrapbook of my successes, filled with newspaper clippings of my academic accolades, copies of my college acceptance letters, and even the program from the school play my parents had missed. This realization was both heartbreaking and uplifting. Grandma also took the initiative to help the rest of the family organize their records. She arranged a family meeting that excluded my parents, recounting the full history of their favoritism, including incidents I had long forgotten or never knew about. Having someone finally acknowledge the injustices I had faced for years was gratifying, but it also reopened old wounds. As for Sarah, she eventually found her voice amid all this turmoil. After some soul-searching and lengthy conversations with our grandmother, she approached me to apologize for not standing up for me earlier. She admitted that she had always thought our parents' favoritism was wrong but felt too intimidated to challenge it. We discussed our childhoods in depth, sharing emotional stories that revealed how our experiences had shaped us. Sarah confessed that being the favored child wasn't as enjoyable as it seemed. She had never learned to be independent and felt immense pressure to meet our parents' expectations. She recounted times when she wanted to pursue her interests, but our parents would intervene, depriving her of the chance to grow and learn from her mistakes. This conversation marked a significant turning point in our relationship. We began to rebuild the sibling bond that our parents' favoritism had severed. Just the two of us started meeting for coffee regularly, discussing our feelings and encouraging each other through this family crisis. Everyone was taken aback when Sarah announced her plan to use her inheritance to pay for her education. She explained that watching me stand up for myself had inspired her to take control of her own life. Once she decided what she wanted to study, she enrolled in a nearby community college with the intention of transferring to a 4-year university. My parents were shocked by this turn of events. It seemed they finally realized that their overprotectiveness had not benefited Sarah. Their reactions to our newfound independence were mixed. Initially, they lashed out at both of us, trying to guilt Sarah into dropping out of college to support the family, claiming I had turned her against them. However, when their tactics proved ineffective, they shifted their approach. After numerous conversations with Grandma and witnessing Sarah's remarkable transformation, my mother began to understand how damaging their actions had been. She took tentative steps toward reconciliation, including starting therapy to address her issues. She reached out to us, apologizing for her unfair treatment and asking for a chance to make amends. While I remain cautiously optimistic about this gradual process, I am also setting firm boundaries. Unfortunately, my father has been less willing to acknowledge his mistakes. He continues to feel outraged and plays the victim in this situation. His attitude towards Sarah has grown cold since she decided to pursue her education, and he hardly speaks to me. He has attempted to control us, threatening to sell our childhood home if we don't come to our senses or if we don't forgive him for what he perceives as our wrongdoing. Despite our resolve to stand firm, it is painful to witness him alienate both of his children in this manner. The dynamics within the extended family have shifted considerably. I now live closer to my father's siblings, who have been incredibly supportive, as well as my grandmother. Hearing from my aunts and uncles about how they dealt with my father's difficult behavior over the years has been enlightening and comforting. To alleviate my loneliness during this challenging time, I've also strengthened my connections with several of my cousins who have been incredibly supportive. We started a monthly cousin dinner, which allows us to catch up without the drama of the older generations looming over us. Personally, I've made excellent use of my inheritance. After paying off my student loans, I now enjoy a great sense of financial freedom. With the help of a financial advisor, I've developed a diverse investment portfolio and saved some money in case I decide to start my own business in the future. I'm currently exploring the idea of opening a community center that offers affordable mental health services and financial literacy workshops. However, the most meaningful use of my funds has been investing in therapy for myself and volunteering to do the same for my sister, Sarah. We're both learning to set healthy boundaries with our parents and working to heal from our childhood experiences. Despite the long road ahead, I already feel like I'm growing in my understanding and ability to overcome emotional neglect and long-standing favoritism. This entire process has brought about some unexpected positive changes in my life. I've learned a lot about setting boundaries and standing up for myself. Even though I know I did the right thing, it hasn't been easy, and there are still tough days. I feel proud of myself for resisting guilt and pressure. One of the more surprising outcomes has been a shift in my career aspirations. Dealing with all this family discord and going through therapy has made me realize my passion for helping others who have faced similar family dynamics. I'm considering returning to school to specialize in working with adult children of emotionally immature parents and becoming a family therapist. Additionally, I've been volunteering at a local youth facility, assisting children from difficult family situations. It's incredibly rewarding to provide the encouragement and support that I wished I had received as a child. I'm even contemplating establishing a scholarship fund for kids in similar circumstances using some of my inheritance. My relationship with Sarah has improved significantly. We now celebrate Siblings Day once a month by doing something fun together, just the two of us. Our recent hiking and picnic outing was the most relaxed and connected we've felt since childhood. Without our parents' influence, we are gradually rebuilding our relationship on our own terms. Things with my parents continue to be challenging. My mother has made attempts to rebuild our relationship. She's been attending therapy regularly and is beginning to recognize the consequences of her favoritism. We've had a few one-on-one lunches where we've had honest, albeit difficult, discussions about our past and future plans. While it's not perfect, there's clearly room for improvement. On the other hand, my father remains resistant to change. He still insists he hasn't done anything wrong and believes that Sarah and I should be grateful for what we have. He has refused to be in the same room as me, skipping several family gatherings. While it hurts, I'm trying to let go of my desire to force him to see things differently or control his reactions. Grandma has become a pillar of strength for both Sarah and me. She shares more stories about our grandfather and how proud he was of us for standing up for ourselves. She has always advocated for justice and understanding, making her an excellent mediator in family disputes. This entire experience has taught me a lot about what it truly means to be family. I've come to realize that sometimes the family you choose can be more supportive than the one you were born into. Along with forming a close circle of friends who have been incredibly supportive throughout this journey, I've grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who have stood by me. Setting boundaries and practicing self-care have become increasingly important to me. I'm getting better at saying no to situations that jeopardize my mental health, and I no longer feel guilty about prioritizing my well-being. I had been so focused on gaining my parents' approval that I avoided exploring new interests and activities. To anyone in a similar situation, I would advise you not to let anyone make you feel guilty about claiming what is rightfully yours. Even if it leads to conflict, it's reasonable to stand up for yourself. Family dynamics can be complicated, but you deserve fair treatment. Remember, it's never too late to start living the life you deserve. Seek therapy if needed, surround yourself with positive people, and don't hesitate to set boundaries. Your worth is determined by who you are as an individual, not by how your family treats you. I want to thank everyone once again for your support and encouragement. It has meant more to me than you can imagine during this challenging time. Despite the difficulties, I feel optimistic about the future and a sense of self-assurance that I haven't felt in years. I'm excited about where this new chapter of my life will take me, and I am determined to break the cycle of favoritism and build stronger relationships with my future family. Thank you for following my journey. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated.